Wasabi everybody, welcome back to another top 10 commander video, and this time I want to go over my picks for the 10 most disappointing commander options from the Strixhaven Commander 2021 sets. Now I have to stress this does not mean that these are bad commander options, like they're unplayable. This just means that they're the worst. So to start it off here, let's talk about number 10. I have Guillaume, Master Chef. Now Guillaume is pretty cool, not really powerful. Like, what are you supposed to do with this commander? That's what I'm talking about here. You get some weird commander options like Guillaume, but there's just no direction here. There's no actual point beyond just sacrificing the tokens to then make a creature indestructible. It could be political maybe, but what's the point here? Are you making an artifact deck? Only number 10 here because it is interesting enough for me to want to build a deck around him, but Guillaume Master Chef is by no means a stellar commander option. And then number 9 we have Octavia Living Thesis. Now this is a pretty cool card as well. Again, lower on this list, I'm a little bit more open to the options, and Octavia is a really cool commander, and that ward being that high pretty much means that your opponents are gonna leave it alone. They have to spend way too much mana to get rid of it. But outside of that, what are you really doing here? You have to have a lot of instants and sorceries in your graveyard in order to play Octavia for much cheaper. And then the ability is you make a creature an 8/8 until end of turn off that Magecraft trigger. I guess that's alright. It's not exactly the best use of a Spellslinger strategy is to go the combat route, but again, like, it is lower on the list here because it's kind of cool. Number 8 we have Zimone Quandrix Prodigy. Another example of a commander I could see myself playing, but is just boring or is a budget version of a land deck you would be playing with a better commander. And you have Tatiova if you're looking for budget too, so don't really know what you're going to do here. Again, these are not bad abilities. If you want a commander that's cheaper that you can get out there earlier on, sure, go for it. But Zimone's tap abilities, you do get an extra land if you draw into more lands, and then you do get some card draw later on in the game that you have to pay for. Not a bad commander, just not anything super exciting. And then we have number 7, Nils, Discipline Enforcer. Now this guy has a cool design, but the direction here is all over the place. Now this is actually from a commander product. This isn't from the Strixhaven set. So when a legendary creature is put into the set, it is for the purpose of being a commander option. Pillow Fort is a strategy. It's just one that is very unusual when using Nils as a commander because, and it's the only reason why I put Nils on here, it's the only reason why Nils is disappointing is because there aren't a lot of cards that put +1/+1 counters on your opponent's creatures. So while the concept is interesting, there's really no way to take advantage of it, at least consistently. So yes, making each creature that your opponents control bigger, making it so that if they have counters on them, they have to pay 1 mana for each of those counters in order to attack you. That's really cool. It's very political as well. What are we putting all these counters on their creatures for? Is it just to keep them from attacking us, or is there some other benefit? Doesn't really seem like the reward is enough for that kind of risk. And then number 6 we have Navinda, Student's Advocate. It's a really interesting idea here that you have commander options, you also have Killian, where the idea is to reward you for playing spells that target your creatures. Navinda is just way too narrow. In what you're able to recast, you can only do it once a turn, and if it's any other spell you have to recast, it's going to cost you 8 more mana to do that, so it's not happening in mono white. What exactly are you capable of taking advantage of? Maybe some pump spells in mono white? Those do exist. You have some protection spells. It's not like Feather the Redeemed where you have so many spells that you can target your creature with, and you're rewarded for doing so. For the same mana, you have a mono white commander option that's way more restrictive. And then number 5 we have Plardine of Chaos that flips into Augusta, Dean of Order, so you can play either side. Again, this list is made up of cards from both Commander 2021 and Strixhaven because they pretty much are the same set. And this commander option is kind of a head scratcher because I don't exactly know the purpose. You have the other Deans where one side synergizes with the other. These two don't make any sense at all. Augusta is easily the cooler of the two Deans here. The fact that you're able to manipulate tapping and untapping like that, or the fact that you give creatures plus power or plus toughness, depending on whether they're tapped or untapped, that's really cool, but again, even that doesn't really offer you much. Plardine of Chaos has some value there. You can draw and discard, Or you could pay 5 mana and tap it so that you get a 3 mana or less card for free. Don't really know the direction here. Again, it's one of those head scratchers. It just seemed like they threw abilities onto a double-sided card and just said, here you go. It's Boros, have some fun. Number 4 here, this might be the most controversial card on the whole list because I know some people actually like it. I've made a CEDH deck around it, an attempt at least, but Galazeth Prismari. This is probably one of the worst commander options here because it is such a tease. It's not like with Cody where you have a restriction there, but you can still have a ton of fun playing in that kind of direction. Galazeth tricks you into thinking you're going to go with an artifact competitive strategy, only for you to have that restriction where you can only use that mana to play instants and sorceries. So you're really going to be playing a Spellslinger deck that isn't going to be taking advantage of as many artifacts as you would want. Galazeth is incredibly awkward because you are torn between those two strategies, and it just doesn't seem like there's anything consistent to take advantage of that with. Or at least that you couldn't find better in just committing to an artifact strategy or a Spellslinger strategy. It's not a bad commander option. Again, I don't think any of these are horrible. It's just incredibly awkward and frustrating because not only do you have the restrictions, but it is even worse than something like an Urza. And I know you don't want to make just the most powerful commander options, but there's really no benefit to playing Galazeth. Even if you consider playing red a benefit, the abilities are not there. And then number 3, we have Black's Vexing Pest. That is also Search for Blacks. This is probably one of the worst ones. Again, you can have fun with any commander option, but you could say that for just about every commander. If you're just interested in playing with the colors, you can make a good deck anyway. Blacks is just an anthem for those different creature types, and when it dies, you gain 4 life. That's about it. It's really not worth making a pest tribal deck or an insect tribal deck, anything like that, because you can find a better commander option for all of those tribes, even if those creatures do not have tribal support built in. Now, Search for Blacks is the better of the two sides. You do get cards for life, you do have to lose a bunch of life to keep all the cards that you get off there, but that is the better of the two sides because you're actually doing something important in a commander game. The fact that Blacks is a legendary creature is pretty weird. It's not really something I think needed to be a legendary creature. It just felt like with this card, Wizards of the Coast, they were aiming for a tribal synergy just for the heck of it, with no actual purpose. It might just be the meme commander option from the set. And then number 2, we have Willowdusk Essence here. I think a lot of people are on the same page with this commander option and the fact that you can only use that ability at sorcery speed. And a lot of these commander options, they just seem to be nerfed for the sake of nerfing them. There's no actual prevention of any sort of combo here. You could of course combo with +1/+1 counters and untapping, but a lot of that takes some involvement, so even if you were to combo, you're talking at least 3 other cards. So Willowdusk was not really in danger of being broken if you could use that ability at instant speed, such as in combat. If you took damage, you lost life, you then tapped it, and you put a ton of +1/+1 counters on a creature. That would be a cool trick, a cool thing that you could do with Willowdusk Essence here, but unfortunately you couldn't. Why this was the face commander for the Witherbloom deck just confuses me. And one way they could have fixed this, if you're just asking me, honestly, they should have taken all of the Elder Dragons, each one, and made them the face commanders for these decks. Because then they would have been a lot better, they would have been more interesting, and people would have been drawn to them. Mechanically, they also work better, even Galazeth does, compared to this. So, number 1 here is Uvilda, Dean of Perfection, and Nasari, Dean of Expression. Again, none of these are horrible. I would even play Willowdusk, it's not great, but I'm sure there are situations where it's powerful. It's just commanders that are significantly worse than what you would want them to be, such as with Uvilda here, and you have a pseudo suspend mechanic here. So you put 3 hone counters on it, and then each upkeep, kind of like with suspend, you remove a hone counter, and then when the last hone counter is removed, if it's exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less to cast this way. Why would we do that? Why would we go through all that trouble of waiting, only to have to pay 4 less for the same exact spell? It's just such a confusing ability here. It's not good. It's not something I would want to play. And yeah, you could use that to your advantage to make big spells cheaper, but the whole point of cheating things into play is to cheat them into play. This just makes them 4 cheaper, and that's a lot of mana. It's just generic mana though. So here's to hoping you don't have anything that is just mana symbols. It's not generic mana at all, because you're still gonna have to pay the full cost for those. And Asari Dean of Expression is also disappointing. While it's more useful, I guess we could consider this being closer to Send Triplets, but with even less at your disposal. You just exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those cards, and you can spend mana how you want. You do have +1/+1 counters for each time you cast a spell from exile, so that is a synergy. And I have found that when playing with these double-sided commanders, you really just want to focus on one of them and ignore the other. It's a worse Send Triplets that has some upside here with +1/+1 counters. You have even less to take advantage of, and it's even less political that way. So anyway, let me know what you think about these. I don't think they're all terrible. Again, it's just ones that are more disappointing. These are the most disappointing commander options to me. So if you haven't already, subscribe, like, comment, share, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Void here signing off. Have a wonderful day.